Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Ahum.
Good morning, Gen Rinpoche. Thank you so much for accepting our request to teach this precious text on the precious Garland. And we'll begin this morning with some. Good morning, Gen Rinpoche. Thank you so much.
Hello, Gala Rinpoche. Are you able to do a sound test with us?
Hello. Hello, hello.
Hello, Gala Rinpoche.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hello, hello, hello. Yes.
Yes, the sound is good.
Okay, okay.
Now, does that sound a little bit loud? I think it's a little bit loud. We had this problem last week too. Hum, hum, omahum, 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 omani pe muhum, omani pe muhum, omani pe muhum, omani pe muhum.
不说了嘛，没动。呀，这个人呢？就是。哦呀，是不是这个呀嘛？是是，
给根本这个，人家就是我等你修了，人家屁股嘛，等我穿。
对，
等你修的。
啥说？
你修得修。
走路了不吧？
你领我，
你这个想想，
我领。
啥啥这是啥说？干嘛都没。干嘛都没。哎是，啊，你说。
你根把这的课程或者适当的弄一下哇，或者把这的课程，嘛设定过了就弄一下。
可以。
你把这着了，你他那学个两个去没得。
我没事情。
他这个看嘛了，你先把这做。对这。
这些是接去。
他这个是。
站着没？还有一件。哦，当年你听这是？
有。
哦，对，这个按照下水吧。啊，不是黑什么？
给，有个的。
哦，这当的过来，大家就是。接着他们那什
Morning,
么？
Katrina.
Good morning.
他们接着会，我让你接着去。
下面家。
好了，不是到这，到这，马上都烧去了，烧去这么多。哦呀，哈哈。我来这样搞去了，你就去。哦呀，这是。
Mandorgale.
有啥的是？呀，是的。我就是开始说了开始跌了嘛，说他个人，我的事情，真对对没事的，好的，真的对对没事。
Recording in progress.
这个味道来了没？老爷来着。今天买着没事，到吃嘛了。我都白学着。这是毛线，这毛的。有几个大个，上不上来到？是今年是啥干嘛的？ 我们同意。好的。Yani yolları oraya ortama peşine oraya düş. Oraya ya. Bile. Bana.
Good morning, Gen Rinpoche. Tasha today. And good morning, Katrina. Thank you for your translations. Welcome to everyone online. We'll begin with some motivational prayers as usual.
To the teacher of darkness and the destroyer, one that's gone, for destroyed, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, no other world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods, the Buddha and Tao, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, prosperity, and go for when, O supreme among humans, you are born on this earth, you place 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With pure bodies, form supremely fine, motion like a golden mountain. Fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner the best, supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not incomparable, wise one, to you I bow. Great, compassionate, protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the law. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, mirage, a flame, and a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all beings, subdue the full faults, and be delivered from the ocean of psychic existence perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom below, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Tiram Gururana Mandalakam Niyatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Ja.
Liksom.
Tyst again.
Och det så.
Ja.
Ja. Jag tar till det kanske. Ja, det är ju så kanske. Ja, det tar ju inte ju lära. Det så som besvärligt så det. Till lakshande. Det är inte det med sig till sinam så då. Chanju ju sem kombate ne så vara. Det med sig så pechan som då. Bena tyji tamadelia keba menjikse chunjikse det jibayo zabulika ga tongdo yara. Oh, det skulle kanske det. Den är tyji tamalia ne jikten di zabulina så ben ne jikten di menjikse sera. Det med sig till sina. Keji jenge barsa barsa. Det är men bardo ne det welcome to the the gam ga nyamdo chage to masa sungambe laina ne samde tangbu menje de chigdu ichera samde niba yanje chigyo mare samde tangbu menje me chigdu ichera o de teni tute meshe tuji tame jambuli di la soba ani ba jibar chibe mete jambuli di ne jinjikten sama tamje ta ne samde dolage samde tamboge menjege ne jinjikten tu kanga kejichege separchege esera teni tude meshe teje nam kejichege yabar separches o tade pechane teshendo dene se chanju ke semkomba dene se wara ane tibwe chembo namse nyawa yeda tondola soba tada kechige tibwe chembo sama tamjede kejichilange bado ba separchane ane te legend debo nami nyomago ba sore esora kejichige nge ba separchane te pene padu meba ta chamgo lodan dembe no sanshas o tezo sama pene jonga tezo dole somba ta tezo sama tamjede ngebe ten yinse 오늘 전에 종교하라마도 장대 말했어. 산재가 송라 내던다 장대 신이 요구하라. Nebe Dunsene Chidar Sumba Nashi Tolia never the Sunsune Netunsere. Sumba Taganashi telling Evere. Tandun Sidu Sun Yunaya, the Sumba Nashi, Trashishindo Kelma Yomare. Roa. Oh, the combat digitally shin somebody is. Penamazo. Kasa Tayo what the Bendota Urwa. Any culture. Pumbungani Kuru, Koko, Kasa Kose. Tayo Sungora. Pumbunga of the Kurne, Nalo Kurkuge Kansa, the Nalo Yodesora. The Sunkosa Yungore. Time ever said that a corporate shed alone. Now it's on a dream and negative pendosi of my name. Tinde Kote Sunsharwa. Tin negative go time ever Timinde Rimji Tivichedo, Gobelonga Sunsharwa. Tenishan dash and that in the church on any parusilo, Dakolishan, and do Samna, and the Sungiora, or Tezotandela, Changdense. Tiger Sumbana, she can't give a mother, take combat the resolution that this somebody is. Gobelonga strong, but they all Tanda do Chaju Chaju Sim could be paying called the Mambo Sonswa. Or Tezo near this, don't let somebody say, one never enjoy the matter. Try to Gobelonga guitar, so she was in the Mare Sungda. Oh, yeah, teach Lana.
So here, as the great Bodhisattva Shantideva has stated in his Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, he gives this example to illustrate the benefits of meditating on bodhicitta and cultivating that. So it says, just as by the fire that will destroy the world. So here we are looking at cosmology, wherein the entire world, this kind of worldly system, will be destroyed by fire and water and so forth and become empty. And so at that time, the entire sort of container world will be destroyed all the way through the first concentration and below. The second concentration and above in the material and immaterial realms will not be destroyed, but everything else, there's like this incredible fire that in an instant it is able to destroy that entire world system. And just so, like that example, great negativities are surely and at once consumed by it. It is the case that by meditating on bodhicitta, we are able to consume, like this great fire consumes the entire world, consume our negativities. And this is something, as it continues, its benefits are thus unbounded, as the wise and loving Lord explained to Sudana. And so here, this is as was taught in the sutras, and this is something that is a definitive teaching. So we have among the Buddha's teachings those that are definitive and those that are provisional, those that require some kind of interpretation, wherein we can't take them literally at face value, like as the words say, but rather they were taught for a particular purpose. And we see this often in the Buddha's teachings. For example, the teachings that say there is some kind of a self that is taught for a purpose, or we see other teachings where, again, the Buddha seems to be teaching that there is a self, like there is the person that bears these five aggregates and so forth. And these are taught for the purpose of those who would be hurt by the teaching of emptiness, would fall into a kind of nihilistic extreme. And so for a temporary time, it is beneficial to teach them that, yes, there is a self and so forth. And when they have developed to a particular point of progression, then it becomes appropriate to give them the teachings on emptiness and so forth. But here, when we see the descriptions of the benefits of bodhicitta, this is not a provisional kind of a teaching that requires interpretation. The descriptions of the benefits of bodhicitta are definitive, or something that we can have faith in, are really describing that. They aren't taught for some kind of other purpose in order to lead disciples, but rather are something that we can look at and say that is definitively the case.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Duka soda. That's the pay card soda. Chanju is some combala paint and they went to Carisana. Chamba that's all the ships on the Yongoba. Not so much it in the Tensu Yon Chamba share. The Yongodoa. Oh, the Duka soda. Oh, Shanley, Simpson Shanley, Tawapang, but a pember to Bani. Kadambek is to Songodoa. Sanjay Church to Tushana. Shella pember to Bata. Tawapang Banina, doing is. Oh, Tinil, Shambecho Yomaris. But this one, I should do it under Umurenji terminal taige rosa. Azu karsore. Kasa chinda chutim sewa. Tamju lambuche la ka. Magu ludong bashi la chumese. Chimba chutim survale soba. Arwa chimba sumla soba yaba. Survale sumla soba yaba. Chinda chutim sewa. Tamju lambuche la te. Tambe chuja lamba chushu te tins. Tatina di rusumbiara. Telia kusha mebase. Shala chawa pangayata. Ra. Shala pamba tuwala soba. Tezulia. Kusha mebase. Teba mebase. Kashe sawachana dure, kashe sana dure, saya toye nari sada, tiri chanda te dos namba chandiri mara, oh tini kasara. Shala ludung bashila che mese, lu kale jab susu lu liya kange teche tikwa taye chidu teche de tilia, che mare se ra, ti kare sene susu lu kale teche ne ko, te tsamji te yuwa yuwa marwa, shen liya pemba tu. Chambada tsewa kone shal pember cheme be chusen de karku dosna tedar te kasha lutung bashila cheme tedar te ne shala neba pong me shala pember tu me se ba shala neba ke bangu mo pendo ke tu gyo mare o te ne cho yo mare ngaranzo chanju ku sem ko ba na samje tamje be to tu be keba me be to thar chim be tu be ju sam tang gyo ra te to lo chang gyo ra 동반이 공부해나야 곧다라 녀모 정말 착당지 녀모 정말 용사가 시대 nga 라와세 근데 라게 개체수에 드네 요구도 세네 동반이 공부하라 미다바지 삼바이나야 천디치부 따도 되게나시 마르다세 도고레스티 데상코 개와제바이네 샬라 펜바다 틱바방바이네 개와침바도 사디슬라다 미코바라서 버림야도 토우데 티면도 토우 마르송거라 어디 인도 가서 쳐대 가래 있네 샬라 차와 밤바 펜바투가 그때 탈심 버셔야 돼 사게 고바토 버 근데 시기에서 단단히 뒤던 돌이야 배주셔야 고 레레 단단히 장고해도 와 샬라 펜도 시위시야 샬라 차와 가요요 봐야 로 니리니리 메체 나리야 나저레 바 캠두시디 미기와 추파 개와 추투베 니리니 삼무 삼무 삼다고라 티 삼르다나니 야게 로야데 가가 용구라 삼르 딱바르 스탄테데 야르야 로야다 직티 셈리아 유한 로야다 다치되게 진랍지 주고도 삼사 소페지 와라 티메네 셈딩에만 안신샤 아니 현다지 쳔데 배데 용구라 이나 에코다 대참지 문에 싸워들 가지고 구적에 껴요 말아 어디 이제 빼게시뭐 이마팅 가지고 내고도 뒤던다 가지고 같이 진중관에 전주신 편에 소샤도 좀 많아 로지티 직대에 봐야 어디 있으나
So here we're talking about the benefits of bodhicitta, and to be able to gain those benefits, we need to have a foundation of love, affectionate love and compassion. And we do this by training our minds. And for example, the sixfold cause and effect method of recalling that all sentient beings have acted as one's mother, recalling their kindness and wishing to repay their kindness and so forth. And so really this all comes down to the kind of most essential dharma of the Buddha, which is we should benefit others and abandon harming them. Really, the Kadampa Geshes used to say that all of the Buddha's teachings could be encompassed in just that. Whatever kinds of practices we are doing, whether it is generosity or ethical conduct or patience, this great path, and it's been described in verses that came earlier here in the precious Garland, that really all of the practices of the Mahayana are dependent upon that foundation of benefiting others and not causing them harm. To sort of disrespect that, to think that, oh, well, I'm doing this higher practice, so I don't need to worry about whether I'm harming others temporarily or whether I'm benefiting them, but I'm going to do my practice somehow that's above that or aside from that. That's a great mistake. And also to do things like, for example, endure physical austerities, thinking that by somehow taking it out on your body, you are able to remove your negativities. Really, that kind of practice isn't Dharma at all. I mean, Dharma, again, the foundation is to not harm anyone. And if you're just harming your body, there's no benefit that comes of that to you or to other sentient beings. It's actually something that is harmful. And so here, bodhicitta, this kind of attitude, is wishing to benefit all sentient beings without exception, without making any kind of distinctions. And so all of our practices should really be grounded in that trying to benefit and doing no harm. Whatever practice it is, whether we are thinking about emptiness, we recognize that, well, this realization of emptiness is what I need to cultivate, because really all of the suffering that I create for myself and others comes from these afflictions that arise from this grasping at an I and that kind of self-cherishing attitude that comes along with it. We see how that realization is something that eliminates that source of the harm that we do to others, or the kind of thought of contemplation of impermanence, recognizing that we don't remain as we are, but we are going to have to pass along. We realize the importance of focusing on our actions, that by doing actions that are virtuous, that benefit others, and abandoning any harm to others, we can go to higher realms and continue to develop and improve. And so really, Buddhahood itself is the culmination, the highest point of this practice, this exercise of abandoning harming others and benefiting them as much as we can. If we don't do that, however, if we don't implement that in our lives, in our day-to-day interactions, there's no way to develop that, right? And to get to the point of Buddhahood. But we need to do this now, from any time that we interact with others, really thinking about how we are using our mind, how our mind is working. If we act like, oh, I'm doing Dharma, and we're just sort of doing other activities but not changing our mind, maybe there's a little bit of benefit that will come, but we don't really get at the root, the most important thing, which is cultivating this wish to benefit others without any kind of exception and abandoning any sort of harm to them. And so here, recognizing the great power and importance of this attitude of bodhicitta, as well as what it is based on, I have been describing then these verses on the benefits of bodhicitta from the first chapter of Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life.
Oh yeah, oh the Junju knowledge Sungutwa and the Jilung Chantiba. Simjan Namda Jawala Sanje Chutub Jawalas. Sanjel Tene, Sanjay Labja Sungni Tinashe, Labja Sumbati Kachambura. Tinashe Raga Simjan Pig Sanjay Sumbana Shegi. Sawapang bar pemba tubala soba pen trubne ani aso so start out do mando ede simjala sawache ta telema chamvene ni so so mama do ede de to sape ke sambure de ora ke simjenam da sanje chutu dawala kela kuchi te shindu simjenla mi chi su se ki madi de so do tina ngaran so samlena karo sene simjente te ka ngaran so le kyo ade jira kashe do Busin de Jina, Tundu de Jina, Tingazu de Chibade, Samsachi Madu Tika Yomara. Tinga Koranzu, Naranzule Dua Yore, Dada Yore, Peja Koa Kotangitare, Yinaya, Naranzula Convocation Buddhismgara. Korandungajana, Tandangazu, and Data Shin de Yena, Gazu Consulia, Chambada Zawada Kachi to see Vina. The social and Pemba to it, so Teneyogora. Simjala Chusu the Samutanda Madina Madra de Kitchenal Tochi Shigdo. Tis some of the Kakania Sherdronani, I address Sanjay but address the Shigdo. Satiko gets him by the Samutangura. Tis Samutana, and then Azuti Lapchadanti Uto Carcer. Tane Simjet Amjala, Ishin Nobule Lapes, some of the Shenda, Ishin Nobule Lapes, no address Kayamara, Kadishin Nobule, and she know Babbitt in the moment as a congregation of secured from that Megadidua. In this, you didn't want it in Russia, the Shokadi, some consultant, some Tandaltene, with the Carsora. So, Tanda Lapchis Hammer to Redua. A Tianco Lapcha Jagdo, Chambada Zawas, Tambososo. Namini de don't ditch us at any go to Tipication Buddha. As a Nawake Omara. Don't ditch us at us and Namjina Chatan, Chatan, Tikangache. Listen, the Tamja, Niri Chata, Kavasim Jetamja Kaya and a Kashi. Shadan, so Dawake Omara Tandagaza. Kinduko Chambada Zawa Chamasati Namine Chans, Patamala Niguja production, Meduba message in short treasures. Tine any source in did to share. Tine source Namju did and get to the Sovereign share. Any source Tomba tea that you get to so. At the neighbor just said down, dinner she comes a reason. Caveat you call long angus to live young girl at the Chambana. Or the education, but it was so chilly getting anxious or Changuba. Yeah, you talk about the Sobutoa. Oh, the Chambana, but you congange. Simja Tamja said you go. Chava Mangage. Simja Tamja, Simja Samang washing the Dilla Rally Yomara. Sanja Tagada Chora, Simja Tamja drove it. Samaya down to Yomara. So soon when I Chavachi Manga. Google Namjuna Chavachi Mega Kadu Yanako, Simja Yimba Samji, Tawandula Dungam, the Simja Yimba some rotator on the Yomado Shedaka Mebo, or Tinda Chasona, Simja Tamjil Migo you go. Set someone washing, you have never seen it in the wrong as a come washing Marashi. Or the tication be body. Lo Changda, they are watching at you, and the Tagbar is some time then. Yajan do wrong, and Yajan drive me do some Gidwa. Gachada, church, Yabi shape me do some. That they say you are in Yama. Nazu Travashi you are the time, me love Neduba. Travashi you are the code the solution that's your soda. You know Marida. The Karsi does a chicken vegetarian, can Karsia so Gansanda, Topushi or Honati vegetarian. Takara Kawi Maranga, the chili take your Rosita. And the Karsia and Judas. The Nambuke, I would ask you. In a Chacheta, and the Chetu Mendoza. Chetu Mendoza. Till a concha Mogoja, Conjo Coron, sort of Minganko, Chetu was another. Katrina Kerasi, Tinder, some out the answer some Josena. What is what is Chezako? Tambu didn't judge some of the chair, the Chunju and go to the chair, Yora. Go there, Chunju and go to Yora. Frank Semney also did sign it temper, some Tanda, Curate and get the chair. And a question is so Rodo near Yora to others. Teacher marriage any teacher would have some mandata, she checked to a so when younger do all the mangas at the oh, they do Carsoda. Yeah, they were the Chisuna mangas. Peruchi Lozawa teacher.
So, Geshe was just saying he sometimes forgets about the translator, so sorry about that. So we see again from Shantideva in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that I often quote that the state of Buddhahood depends on beings and on Buddhas equally. So what kind of practice is it then that honors only Buddhas but not beings, right? So it's not in terms of the qualities that they are the same, but in terms of the ripening result that comes to us. So we should see all sentient beings as equal in wanting to have happiness and not wanting to suffer, just on the basis of their being sentient beings. And we need to do this by actually training our mind in relation to those that we interact with on a daily basis. We have to come to see their suffering as important. We have to really also recognize the kind of benefit that we are gaining from sentient beings, right? It is in relation to them that we create the kind of virtues that bring us happiness, that bring us good. And so all of our benefits, even all the way to Buddhahood, is dependent upon other sentient beings. And so we should come to view them in the way that it's described in the 8 verses of Training the Mind, that all sentient beings are like a wish-fulfilling jewel, right? I mean, most of the time, we don't look at other sentient beings as being a wish-fulfilling jewel. We might see them as an annoyance or this or that, but we have to come to this point through beginning with those that are around us, beginning with our family, our friends, those that we interact with on a regular basis, and actually have a feeling, like really have a felt sense of how important they are, a wish to relieve their suffering, and I wish, again, that they have happiness. And this is something where if we don't begin with those around us and try to extend that out more and more, and we just sit down and say our prayers and say like all sentient beings, it's like it's this, kind of a mass somewhere of beings that we don't actually know. We don't actually have any feeling toward. And so as it is taught in the Buddha's teachings, that we should begin by respecting one's parents, respecting the parents and those in our family. That's where we begin from. And so when we have that kind of natural concern for those around us, we wish for them to have happiness, we wish for them to be free from suffering, then we naturally kind of have this sense of respect that arises towards them. But it is something that depends upon our training the mind, right? It's not as though when we say like all sentient beings, we can't know all of them. We can't get like a personal introduction to all of them. But any being who appears in front of us, we should recognize as a sentient being, as equal to us in their being and their wanting to have happiness and wishing to be free from suffering. And so here, if we begin training our mind by every single being that we interact with, then eventually we can make that expand more and more to all sentient beings. So it is that whoever arises in front of us, we wish to benefit them and wish that they be free from suffering. But this is something that, again, depends upon our training our mind, beginning where we are at. And so there's a little story about a monk that he decided to convert to another religion. And once he had converted, someone asked him, like, well, why did you make this kind of conversion? And he said, Buddhism is great. The ideals are great, but it's something that I can't do. It's so vast. It's so expansive. But I am able to, say, make supplications to like a triple gem or a higher power and request their blessings. So that's why I converted. It seems like, oh, well, this is the ideals of Buddhism are great, but it's not something that I can reach. And so, just sort of praying to a god is easier. And so we should recognize that, yes, the goal is quite vast. Encompassing all infinite sentient beings is something that maybe we can't even imagine, but we have to start where we are. This is really important, as the line we recite says, to subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha, right? So we begin with our mind in everyday interaction, and we start where we are, and slowly through that kind of training, we can develop our mind further. Otherwise, there's the danger of thinking like, oh, well, that's a great ideal, but that's not something that I could actually do.
Oh yeah. Oh, that and that go kasora. Nagarjuna nam just some lutanda the kartan gorsene. So de ko metapara shera duche tamje metapara. Joa chige kyudan ken lutane yongo chigara. Ina ngarajo semje kyunde kyuma chebe tegora. Joa change ba ta machine pe chogu mare shine sembi kyunde yang chamo chi change ya kyawa chelan tus dogre. Italia chine de kyanga ya so semchi yore. Tinga ma chidu tinga zo namba ge samlutandu so de semge kyunde jura chenge china be thongma meba ne ko joa chige yon denge. Bana tanda kajin pa pa du ste sang da kena ta lanyo jola ma go char ma do kansa meb chaya che o ma ro. O tin de so de kachin bu shobi sam ta do chochine me da ba re su ko keji joa che sun che de ko nga jo ha ko do mi de ke bi na ina chochine ko kyunde so tidu nyonge nga ma tidu nyonge de tanda nyo tene lo chunjo kane ame ko gena de tidu nyo ke tengi me do ade ina che 영어로 와. 아또또 제장 로탱게 치레 되어라. 뒤에데 소수 대화다 동에데 교단데도 자체 무시비지래 되어라. 천디 장장 말이야. 천디 장장 얘네들 좋잖아. 천디 강geb기 가야 아니 데 장변 봐셔야 돼. 현대 섬을 마동 써야 돼. 천디 장장 아야 부용에 섬을 동시. 그 좋아들 게요 말에 좋잖아. 그 말에 뒤따래 요래 뒤치마 요래 뒤인데도 그 천대 소수 파만하시 소수 tin치시 가려는 딴 남기 tin치시도 맞지기 와라. 다이나 등사 my me mabushi ma tinche kayo mare ko kar tinche ore se do me te kar sore samlungone tane tinche bude tambunya de ne so lu de chinye de lu de consultant choro wa konzo karine mene so sam taora lu de chore kogena de de ne shoji tan no ura shoji ye samche yagra amade samgira kala sa je ke chode be kadara chen ti chigra Sima Pentoin, you did a give mare. And a Koran pe Tissamgidoa. And the Lojo at the Yagra Switch in the Samgivara. Or Tineza card, the mud Sunjira Shan Sivara. Or Tina Shimaju, Simja, Mares, or a Kyongama Tang Mezane. Marketing Sheshu, some given a man, send the man as joy. Yeah, remember Koran Pai, some good. Yeah, Timana Tomuda, Tomuda, Tinder, some good at Ira. Kati cheshu tsuwa cheshu na tena shimaju a che yo ma de jo samutana samde ne samje thamje mar sheba se tete ba phar sheba zaur sheba zamur sheba ta kare na so samla kare kashi na tende samta ra jo nga ma tame ba she tende ko tende ne samje kanga so da dewa yo ge de chagdo tanda nga ju na shin de me de shin da ke te me ge de teg me do Ganga Kiwanga Kiwanga Pamata Miriskiene, Nindisi, you with the Tandaka in Jehako Mara. Tanda Society and Rote did no mera. The Hakona about that irisha some shivers ho younger. Timio de Cotirima, the member Kimara. Satina she simply did it. Sosu Katina, Chiso, case of the Panton get the Panton, the conjugal in the Toga Shajiri or Tindan Caberja. Pama majube까 옛날 찍으려고 버제 찍으려 때에 삼시나 지소 제 팬도 전에 단다보도 한대거라 나라준 전불이 당부대디 대사 강바다 람바다 지가와요래 요 심지어 당도 내시저 잡부로 된데다 시도 급제 퍼주지 되라 다 삼루탄데 대와데 통에 맞았는데 야제 두고 제치게 칠때 삼루탄 깨서 이게서 신다 단다 남을 페르게를 줄지기 와를 가게 제시기도 야제 되어라고 대와다 텐데 동안 텐데 여산 되게 찍실래 로봇이 용대 와라 어때인데 근데 삼루탄데 심지어 삼만 드레메 도시 멤버즈 소선들 텐데 니슈 근데 나티나시 마주 심지어메 매버레 삼도는 심지어 탐제 마르시 바세로 tiongora samutangora o tiche tiende tenda tukure sam rangi pamalaya yawandona digmare sam da chendi tinashi samachi bore sam tamje danda samutang chojine tichene samutangora chojine ya telawon bono samutanda jacheru tanje ran dewandola tunge medewras ran tunge chonjujina base godwas dewa chonjujina tukgodwas tinashi choade kangaliyora wasedera 다다 셴 초아디도 용견 냠바데 대와 개신부도 동에 배 전화 선서 저와 여기도 집어로 도당 신내 신뢰도 요 말을 신다다마 소수의 개신부지 신다 단단한도 참상을다 도당 신뢰도 그거 매르서 신다사 진짜 섬기어라 뭐 뒤도 가서 지롱그 말에서 다다 신도 냠바네 당부지도 배야 되고 대다 동에 냠바는 탐지다 있어 와샤스 대원들의 동해 매도바랑다 찍버리 삼 라게 대화되네 두고도 대화에 베시나 두고도 강에 베시나 세고도 지나시 셴 라게 통대 무슨 통대 동해도 동해데 동해 손에 대해서 잘했어 되게 konzu 대화에 베시 좁자래서 근데 삼을 따지 다시 냠바스 아니 다시 재와서 다 도마 매번에 제대로 소소 개시시식으로 와서나 저랑 개체쇼도 도마도반에 쓰는 영향벌에 단다봐도 저랑 약속에 줄도 왔어요라 어떻게 돼서 다들 삼을 땅다 거란데요 말에 다 삼을 땅다 제부잡세 딱신 제스라 단다봐도 소소 개체쇼 소소 단다를 신다 배주체 삼을 땅이어라 다들 멤버체 신개체쇼 신개 돈다 중계랑 지쇼세 다 삼을 거란 제부잡세 되니시네 요한들이 때마다 다르면 도시 다신님이고네 심께지 진짜시네 기도 어디인데 준대 맹아 준대 다신님이고네 심께도 남기는 가지고 로창 삼루당한테 다 야견르면도 섬겨 말아 가제 삼루당 대사게 야견르되어는 네버 처리세 처리로요래 남산 호흡대가래 삼루땅에다가 남산 짓게 연구 마라. 면배나 니마샤르나시 남산한테 용해서 요 마라. 로 콤베제스도 그래. 통만 매번엔 독자들로 콤되어라. 이 양다 버텔로 콤해야 돼. 깔래 연구라. 제가 얘네 야견 누구 삼네. 니리니리나 삼나 아니 야구거든. 아니 코네 페라. 근데 삼루땅에 심제 탐제 그때 좀 게 깨고서 연대 군대 이제 간사실인 거 자기 인상. 대체도 단단해. 아니 샹라 저와 방에 펜바 트러블 소바. 소연네. 네 터도 심제 탐제를 펜바 트네. 동해 탐제도 대화다. 대화 탐제로 뭐 탐게. 니바 용수 소바 시기 대체도 근데 유르지게 람가게 좀 바카르 삼루땅다 좀 바카르네 때죠. rimbaashindu tebaja sambaja kombachane jangi sam techedu chye sam kulo setane sambashos otara kan te deche lam digri nya korajan ma bushegde ya
No. So here, when it comes to how we need to think, we need to consider impermanence, right? The fact that we are not going to remain, that we change moment to moment to moment. But despite the fact that we recognize that kind of impermanence, we also have a sort of continuity, right? The continuity of our mind is not destroyed, say, at the end of this life, but this subtle consciousness will continue on, will keep going. And so here in Buddhist thinking, we recognize that there is impermanence that's in this moment to moment change, but there is also a kind of continuity, a kind of this mind doesn't have any sort of beginning. And when we think about it in that way, we need to recognize this sort of vastness, right? When it comes to thinking about, like for other non-Buddhist schools, they might think only of this life, like, oh, there's just the span of this life, so enjoy it, have happiness, and there's nothing beyond, and so forth. But we as Buddhists, we recognize that there is this kind of continuity to mind, even though, for example, we don't necessarily remember the sufferings that we experienced while we were in the womb or while we were a child. We had those kinds of experiences. There's this continuity of consciousness that goes moment to moment. And so when we have that kind of recognition that expands our perspective, we can also begin to see the kind of ways in which we are connected with other sentient beings. Like when we think about training the mind in bodhicitta, there is first recognizing that all sentient beings have acted as our mothers, right? So this is just an example. We don't necessarily have to take the mother. There are some, particularly in our modern world, who sort of take issue with this. They say, well, oh, my mother wasn't that kind. But even when we think about the very body that we have, it was dependent upon the body of another. A mother had to keep you in her womb, sort of taking care of you. And even if after that, you don't feel like she did such a great job, our very existence is dependent upon another sentient being. And so here, reflecting upon the kindness of, it could be your mother, or it could be someone else, like your father or a friend who has acted with great kindness toward you. When you begin to recognize the kind of span of the lifetimes that we have taken, you begin to see that, well, every single being has acted in that capacity. There are countless lives. I have taken countless lives. And therefore, although I might not recognize it, every single being I interact with has acted in that capacity. I mean, imagine when we are able to have that awareness, the way that we look differently at a being we encounter, when we think, oh, they acted as my kind mother in the past. And really, when we think about the sort of special kindness of other sentient beings, we are very much interdependent upon others, even beyond just recognizing the kindness of our mother and so forth. But all of the kinds of food and shelter and so forth that we enjoy comes from others. Really, it was from the point of our desire not to suffer and our wish to be happy that we have improved our society, have developed and so forth. And so all of the kinds of things that we enjoy are dependent upon others. We aren't unconnected with these other sentient beings. And so we should have an interest in accomplishing their aims, in accomplishing their happiness and repaying that kind of kindness. Now, this is a way of training the mind that is good for us, but those of sharper faculties often think about the equality of our basic being, right? That all sentient beings want to have happiness and all sentient beings wish to be free from suffering. As Shantideva has said, since I and other beings both in wanting happiness are equal and alike, what difference is there to distinguish us that I should strive to have my bliss alone? So when we recognize that every other sentient being is sentient, as in has feelings, isn't like a rock or a stone or something, but rather they want to have happiness and want not to suffer just as we do, we can begin to see the importance of recognizing and acknowledging the feelings of others, really too seeing how it is that our self-cherishing, our seeing ourselves as most important and only thinking about ourselves, like where has that really gotten us? Has that really been of benefit to us? And so when we come to have this kind of recognition of the happiness and suffering of others, and really based upon this recognition that our self-cherishing attitude hasn't helped us, but rather to cherish others would be what would bring us benefit. What would happen if I switched those kinds of attitude? We can begin to see how it is that we train our minds in the method of equalizing and exchanging self and others. And this is something where we need to train our mind, but we shouldn't think that, oh, I'm not improving at this. We will improve if we take the time to think about it, but it's not something that is instantaneous. It's not like flipping on a light switch and all of a sudden the darkness is gone, but rather when we do this day in and day out on an everyday basis, then yes, we will improve. We will begin to get rid of that self-cherishing attitude and cherish others more. And so thinking in this way, like I am wanting to be of benefit to all sentient beings, I'm going to strive to attain this state of Buddhahood, a state of Buddhahood in which I have eliminated all faults and developed all good qualities and have the capacity to be able to lead and benefit other sentient beings. In order to do that, I'm going to work on my mind. I'm going to train my mind. And in order to be able to train my mind, I need to learn the various instructions. And so here I am going to listen to these teachings on the Precious Garland by Venerable Nagarjuna with the intention of training, developing my own mind in order to become a perfectly enlightened Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So please set such a motivation for listening to these teachings.
Oh yeah, 당연히 될 lesson. 솔로가 겹치들와. Oh yeah, 지우주 숨게 가세다 세대로. 어디 야.
No.
Oh yeah, 당연히 가르치기도 생각한다 해야 돼. 아주 뒤셔요라. 손남다 시기 초세도 쉬어요라. 자 초니 사버들이야 아니 티모에 배요래. 세 배요들이야 티모에 배서래 티모에 연대가다. 티모 많이 봐야 된다 해야지. 니르시기도 티모에 연대셔라. 니 개발전지인데 개발전지인데 니수생활에 시 티모 지단에 티모 연대 나요래서 티모 많이 봐야 되다 메다 니수생활 요래 티셔대요라. 디나네 따던데 가발레도스나 오야 저래 니바 짐버셔에 뭐 어디 다들 땅마들 디셔서와 계속해서 숨들이야 가르쳐 그래서나 아니디 가르쳐라 뭐 롱주라 소바 레버츠네 이 샤리아 짐바동을 소바트도 셔서 네 땅마들이야 어디서 셔라다 들이야 세고라 소바 아니 시슈 소르렘베 소수 파마다 니데다 가서레 롱바우피 내가 지금做的 저절로 그셉션에 펜도야부터 그래서라 아니 짐바다 밑쪽부터 졸이야 짐바다한다 근데 셉치하고 쇼를 셔라 다들 도바고요라 아니 다 짐바다에 뭐 매나다 손님 사야시 요마르베서래 가격이라 짐바지도 세라 짐바리자 뭐 매나 아니 손님 제 초소 유래에 탑시게 요마르베서나 어디 빼야고 요래서 왜라 티장자 말해서래 아티시도 티장자인 베삼을 짐바장자셔대 삼겨라 제일 학벌 요에 빼던 봐서 텔레 학벌 심바나야 세대시다 롱주 심바 유나다 인데 따나 코 티겨라 배시라 매나 텔레 땅게 텔레 제수이라 전에 심베장 두요래 Mena Sosole Tende Chuning at the Tangi in some Tonsin Penna do you are. Is you measuring over time, Mana, all at Tende Chuning at the Tende Chester, dependent some Tia Tonsin Pig you are. Tia so this Tonsin Powder. Chesna Co Carsura. Oh, Lonju Manda, Chimbataya, maybe Tiki or mother. Susukah, you were Chiki, Pesha Chiri, Chimbato Taya Mana, Tia Puchatambina, Taya would send that Chimbatangal Chesirachena, Pesci, Dada Tugura, Kashe, Randa Tadure. Oh, Tindu Casura. Chimbacha, oh, tell you this, Robotaya Manaya, Tele Lakbani, Shenda Sunam Jusosai, Tapsiore, Tikaris. Chiuzu Sumbie Casetas. Chiuzu Semacho Sag Amarab de Yusara. Oh, Chiuzu Sumbie Casetas. Chiuzu Sumbie Caseta, needed to some chimbales. Oh, Chiuzu Setinalia. Kalatun, Deda, Chemada, Ded, Jetica Chemanaga Meadow, to choose a son. Shoge Kalatan, Yingun Kalatan, Konda Kalatan, Yinayasigora. And Sunam Shambukiri, Telegan Lagwasura. Chiuzu Sumbie Caseta, needed to some chimba. Chamba use them tongue jiggy, Sunam Dala Charmebis. Sumje Tamjig and the Samdan, Teva Kudan Dana, Satunga, the Tower Gurji, some Lushuk Shibuchina Yina. Telegan among Sunam Sagre, Sigara. Kunegab some Maruba, Teva Tamja and then Tunga Tamja the Tena, some Chamba that some Lushuk Shibuchina. Depends on good Esora. Chiuzu Sumbie Caseta, needed to some chimba Gangs. And because Chamba use them tongue jiggy, Sunam Dala Charmetus. Oh, Tende del Disungua. Jedus and Jagda, Kalasigora. Jedu. Nicola, Trecho, Tadekazere, Tessa, Papa, Tessa, Jadelia. To sing to Shisichet in a new matan, they got to suggest or Trecho. Kilo Chisu, Kiripese. Kilo Chisu, Trechelia. Trechu and Trechu them, Kilo Chuza, Luna and Netson, Soya, Tendegi, Telia Chuzu, Segora. Tende Sumbia Segora. Tende Sumbia, and me Mambotonda Mambusa, Gudua. They do get towards Tosa del Segora, Chuzu Segora. Or Tenalia, and I got a dead Kilo Chu. Thousand to get in there. Sumbia knowledge. That Kilo Chu, some just me, Mamma shows Dangera. Not so much that she Shoge, Konda, Kanga. Punjab to what the Tangi Udwa. Kalamabusu, and then make over to the owner Shoge, Tanta, Chibata, and Pekka, or Tinde Suretan, take it in the young girl, Dangaman. Sumbia Caseta, Shermanada, Medawa, Tia Subsoje, make over side some. Tabsat in the members, Chema, Nagameda in the Tanchera. She was a Sumbia Cassette and needed two Sumdo, Shoge, Kala, Yingo, conducted Simba Nesera. Not the other than Digi, oh, two Sumdo Chimba S, the Sunam Pe, Chambu Sagres, or Long Ju Chambu, the Sunam Chambu, Milipendo Chambu Shida. Teleja, Simja, the other than Digi, Chamba, Simja Tamja, the other than Gore, Samalakang, Tunga Maguresa. Tinde Samlu Shuk Chambis done Chamba that saw Shuk Chambis Combina, Tisonam Chambu Sagre, Sona Manga Sagre, Sora. Tata gets Chamba get a Tadi Shamadi. The other dead Chamba use them tongue, Ra, Ki, Sunam Dala Charme Puto Osa. Oh, Tichituna.
So here then, picking up in the text, and this is verse 284 in Geshe-la's version, but 283 in ours. We may have done this last time, but we'll review it. So here we are talking about the kinds of the need to accumulate the collection of wisdom and merit. And we were talking about the various sort of qualities that are common to both of those collections, and then the sort of uncommon, particular, special qualities of them. And in particular, above, ending in verse 282, it had been talking about the kinds of generosity that accumulates king should engage in should he have resources to do so. So providing for the poor and giving material kinds of generosity. So the question then arises, well, what if you have no possessions to give? Is it then that there's no way to be generous? And so the reply then comes in 283, where it says that, well, actually, there is a kind of generosity that is superior to that. You can gain a great benefit first from rejoicing in others' generosity. If you have a sincere attitude of rejoicing in that, it's said that you could gain an equal amount of merit. And even if you have only $1, say, to give away, to give that away, or even if you have nothing to give away, to train in this attitude of giving away, of developing that sort of ability to not hold things really tightly, but rather to part with them, to be able and willing to give them to others. And so here, it isn't that generosity isn't possible should you be lacking material resources, but actually you can attain very great results from generosity of other kinds, like the generosity of love. And so here it says, giving the food of 300 stew pots every day, 3 times a day, cannot compare to even a part of the merit of just a short moment of love. And so here, the kind of giving of, say, and here it gives a very sort of detailed description of what this food offering entails, like sort of the weight, the measurement of the amount of rice and so forth. Like, so it would be like there's sort of different boxes, sizes that they would have had. So like probably about 10 kilos worth of rice. And then we have these 300 pots filled with that and all kinds, it says here, like 60 different vegetables and so forth. And so that kind of material offering is something that is temporary, right? It fills people's stomachs. But something like the attitude of love is a higher kind of generosity. So here we see that there are certain like religious traditions who are very committed to this kind of generosity. Like in the Punjab, there are those that offer food to the poor and do so on a daily basis, a huge offering of food. And to do such an offering here, describing it, it's a quite extensive offering. Again, 300 stew pots filled with like 10 kilos of rice, and not just sort of poor people's food, but also with all these different vegetables and things, making a very nice kind of respectful food offering is something that would gain one a great deal of merit, but just a short moment of love, that wish that, and particularly if it extends to all sentient beings, may they have happiness, that is something that the merit of which cannot be measured.
Oh yeah. Tadi jama sholuga Geshe kyanga dero. Sami jambar juta jamba kombe penye de shegora. Jamba komba den penye de yore se. Sami jambar jubata. Rang simje thamaliya tewada trena sa tungeda trena sa jamba da so komba ina. Ani senda sangma sosolya neba chengeda tinde yong yora. Sami senda zu sosole jamba da sawa ki samrutagir mado. Neba ke samrutang mare ko thema tu chezani neba ke yora. Mitumbe ke men neba ke ko ke omara. Sami jamba jubata. Hada metu sosole jamba chigre. Kachol ka lara china oya buchigdo sam Geshe yuran che songyup chigira. Ote men mimai tongde rabatinde neba ke tinde hina ko sam simje tamje sedina kondu che samrutayine. Never get chung chigure. Tumde de share yore. Don't do the torch, chill never get a session. Nichiglang, I never get to some others, calling a $10 some Jalakung which take those in the chung, tum share yore. Or Tico, pass him to some man, Chamza Comshana, consider thoughts or a haku, Sarah. And about 2 jump, because never get chung do yore. One nation jelly. Nangarazo young colpa, not to this over mother. Ya was Jenny on the Swashita, Yunushivara, take care chamber, one is an music committee, called music commissioner, never shown do yada. Sami chamber you at answer. Social suicide, let them make to two chamber. Today can a song dance. Today can rally a song you say, watching at a chow yard. Ye de were dance, so same devil young god. Tell my boy, Kajana, legacy was some cocky at the city on the Tell Manga young god. 다 샹달리아 콘도가 제 차도 남주네시잖아요. 선배님께서 투제 대고라. 팀에는 투고든 시요 말아. 근데 대마와다 걸려서 이디와다 대마다 두당 천게 내매다. 두당 천을서 같은데 내가 용마라. 반내가 맞아 샴부샤니 야부샤나. 수에 펜도레시나 마도 내가 시고대 용마라. 다시나. 도글로 소바튼 데스게 용 말에 천절로 소바튼 데게 차와신게 용 말에서 용유차그라 두다 천지 내메다 아니 다들 가르쳐서 되어데 계시자 두더라 장애도서 단다디 팬이 시작이 왔다 샴바 공배 팬이 되게 시작이 왔다 네 매바 더 톱다 소소 단다라 시작이나 치소나 소소 레가를 지고나 때 배조시다 제메고 야부신 두고래 미 타도 생게도 너베 쟁게 매버시 밑도 좋고 소소 잠바 공부 때는 게 지는 밑에 통되고 차고 거기에 저 로봇 진도도 이런데 차고라 이대와 가시다 내가 매바 던도다 상배지대게도 끼워침받을 사이 사 창발라서 봤던 데게 직단이 학교도 그래서 거라 아니 그때 저를 조장하세 세들라 고 타르발라서 왔던데 토마토나 잠바 공발할 때는 팬이 개부터 톱토그래서 잠주연대 개토보세 단다 따들 장가 잡서 라미 잠바 줘받아서 어때 연대 개부터 톱그래서 어야 뜻이라나
So then, in the following two verses, it describes the benefits of love. Again, having this kind of attitude of saying, may others have happiness, may they be free from their suffering, and so forth. This attitude of love is described, and here I'm just going to say that the verses 284 and 285 seem to be sort of translated together, so the order will be slightly different. So even if not liberated, you will attain these 8 excellent qualities from practicing love. Gods and humans will love you, and they will also protect you. You will have peace of mind and much happiness, and not be harmed by either poison or weapons. And you will effortlessly attain your aims and be reborn in the realm of Brahma. So here, when you have an attitude of love toward others, there are going to be fewer who want to cause you harm. I mean, there are times when we will have disagreements, but in general, if you are going out into the world with love for other sentient beings, then, as it says, gods and humans will love you, particularly like those sorts of gods or powers that are on the sort of virtuous white side. But even those who might wish to cause harm normally. And there are like kind of stories about this where others were trying to cause harm to someone, like ghosts or demons or other kinds of beings. And due to the meditator's power of love, those forces were unable to harm them. You don't generally, when you have an attitude of compassion and love toward other sentient beings, they are going to harm you less. And not only harm you less, they will also protect you, as it says. So that's the second of these 8. And then you will have a peace of mind and much happiness. I think those are 3 and 4. And here it describes, it explains, I mean, when we treat others with love and we have that kind of view toward them, we ourselves experience more happiness, right? More peace of mind. If we remain as we just normally are, feeling jealous of others, competitive, we have hatred, we have this kind of pride and so forth, that is not a happier state. But when we develop love, we experience more sort of mental peace as well as, again, happiness in terms of we're not having others harming us as much. And so too, as it continues into the next line, you will not be harmed either by poison or weapons. Again, if you are not going out and hurting others, it's much less likely that you will be the subject of harm from them. They aren't going to try to undermine you or hurt you with poison and weapons and so forth. And so too, you will effortlessly attain your aims. When you set out to accomplish accomplish something if you do it with a really good kind of an attitude and a mind that has love in it, rather than being motivated by, say, jealousy or competitiveness or anger, you will accomplish according to your wishes. You will be able to effortlessly attain your aims. And so too, in the future, you will be reborn in the realm of Brahma. And here the line, even if you're not liberated, really comes down at the end here. So even if you don't attain liberation, you will attain rebirth in the realm of Brahma.
뭐야? 다른다 그 전부 공내 편하게 두고 그래서 천딜레랑 때보다 정말 그래서 깨워 치말하네. 지금 라에 상부께 와서 편하게 그래서 뒤셔서라. 다들 솔로가 저기저기들아. 네 당당 아주 뒤셔가라 가서래. 가서래. 수남다 시기 사발에 때네 편해야 돼. 투모와 편해가 뒤셔서라. 다 투모 많이 bes는다 어디 가서 개발이 편이 수행하시거라. 뒤셔거라. 단다디 편이 버티래도. 다 숨버 시방가 봐서 방치용 그래. 다 숨버 뒤셔거 편 숨버 뒤셔거라. 심지어 남네 장주도 심계 주제 땡제 나서더라. 에네 주wan 개부 따르때 장주 심리 따도 톱세더라. 어디 가서 그래서나 심지어 남네 장주도 라네메베 장주도 쓰어라. 심지어 남네 장주도 심계 주제 라나메베 장주도 대과 첨부를 쓰어라. 심지어 남네 장주도 심계 주제 심지어 탐지의 때도 산재적 고반 토바 제고래 심지어 탐지의 때는 두통배기 그것에 내 근데 이제 탈심배 주지 제고래서 근데 제가 인삼서 삼을 따야 될 수거라 심지 주지 현달에 장주 심계 주 소소 장주 심공세 심기 주지 대전나 대스 장주 심지어 탐지의 때도 산재 고반 토바 제 대시도 단단히 지레를 장고래서 봐 템부체네 파람네 현달에 람나스거라 주wan 개부 따르때 장주 심리 따도 톱스 근데 마음바나 소소래 장주 심 리원보네 템보 냠바메보 어쩐데 되네 토바 유크레스 와라 장주 장주 심리 따도 톱스 토바 유크레스 내도 심지어는 장주도 심께도 주 현달래 장주 다기 시간에 시준데 맹아도 다시 냠절어서 버틴데고네 심께도 주 로아테 미냠제 템보 용해 탭시체 제체변에는 산주 무슨 리원보 다부 템보체 미냠바테 게토그레서 오라 라니키 데다 치마타도 토보스 제디사 가지 산주 예심네 라니키 데다 치마 소소교라 샹레 테데야 케초베나 소소교라 테도 란다 샹이가 교레 산주 템보 톱토그레세
So those two verses then described the 8 benefits of love, of, like, for example, being happier and more at peace in this life, experiencing less harm from others, the kind of benefits in future lives as well, such as being born in the realm of Brahma. And so here, as we turn now to verse 286, this again is within the kind of what we are talking about are the 2 accumulations. I mean, we went through the kind of common qualities of the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom. And here it's talking in particular about the kind of the special qualities of each of those, in particular the accumulation of merit. And so here it's going through 25 of these, and we are now on the 3rd, and they'll come in order. And so it says in 286, if you lead others to develop bodhicitta and then make it firm, you will always have bodhicitta as stable as the king of mountains itself. And so here, if one has this attitude, the mind of awakening, of wishing to attain unsurpassed enlightenment, this is again wishing to become a being who has eliminated all faults and developed all good qualities in order to be able to be of greatest benefit to other sentient beings. things. If one develops this within oneself as well, seeks to help others develop it in their mind, this will lead to our own bodhicitta becoming firm and not degenerating in any way. So to lead others, to instruct them in, say, the sevenfold cause and effect method, or the method of equalizing and exchanging self and others, to help others to develop bodhicitta, as well as ourselves making our own bodhicitta firm. This leads to us always attaining it in the future, having this as something stable throughout many lives.
Oh, yeah, I did. Don't know what the shake do. Oh, yeah. Don't do the teaching. Tebe, me come to me, you said it. Right. Make a pambata, pana, ya will agree with that. There were trouble so one, make a panchata, there were trouble, kill trouble so what to the teba unas, kitty yolando to the teba unas, or Tebe me come to me, and me come ben and that to so what king maris mount one ya. Father Milly Kiri, Karas and a could take by the Pankiwadi, Chindi Tubgira, Shana Tawala so make a chuti Pankiwachu to give done. Father made a tenderly kigger maton, as only king maris and drop me use. Oh, so Janana Tebe, Teba de Yeden Kari Kigres in Timberman, Mekumbar Droge, Dromeju, Mekum Benella, King maris, Georgiamando marisa. Oh, teacher, yeah, that's it, Tanga with the Yamdo Lapsana. About the Kares and a Semje, and a Kare and draw, Sambo draws a Timby draws, or me, some sort of colostic do I eat in North. Timby draws, Sambo draws a Sutim Sivara, Shella Chawapang, but a Sutim day. Draw Sambo do. Sutim J, Lami draw Sambo Tobo, Chingabati Chera. That took by the Kari of the Sena. Tombani la comba Yeshe. Tombaji comes on the Sura. Chunam Kunla Chame Topse. Tombani comes on the Chunam la Shenja de Chodru, de Segura. Shenja de Chodru and Shenja should a man and a conduct of the young Mara. So sit that the Duma Susan Shan Toya de Chagbayuna, Toa de Yungura, Chagbayu, many Toy on the Kayomara. What you do, I say. Shouldn't Jenny Lamin draw some botobo, say. Oh, he said, that to weather. This one, Timby draw some bottle, said. Timby saw draw some bottle draws it this one. That took weather, you then took weather sugar, the cabar sugar, you then took weather sugar. They got a sugar, those enough. Don't buy any combaye. Show them go like Chame tops, or to the Tombani combala tennis, Tungi combura, Tungi comna, a combaye, and you then carry midday show laya, midday show dribe, Kewa, le Minyamshe, Bayo Tobadas, or the midday show to want to do Maris, Kewalia, substitute Chigresua. Tombani comes on a touchida, Dira. Tras and get never used the Rangwin, Shivachi, Yeveson, Comnani, Conto de Ungora. Tis also some Getagi or some thoughts, the Kajashadam, Medra, Chigimachi, Resicia, and so some Trotak, but some Remado. You could run around the tree, could touch she or Marisamna. Conto Sasate, the Mavis of the Chagrin. I'm young as a Conto Satter, of course, some. It is some Kashinji Shoji Zuzu Sari some Gara. One is in the Pigako, so good on some that saw to the Karitana, could try in city, D is around Kayomaris. Because it's just damage, so some of them, the Fatashara. Tell was a remother year. I wanted to watch the show, mother, some that Tala, Condo, you had the Chondora. You don't want to say, oh, that's also Shabuji using when some. That is the day of my some Masarjina Karina. She so the Nagi Naja that is some time Mito Balas over the some of the Yatezola ten talk was so semi Batagi or mother. Chakway wrong when it was in a Kadina Chakwaji with the Chai and Yagavara. Kaduina. Take a kigi or mother. So the same device associated any Shinja should be Gira. Some some Madame Tanyam to Chitaya Toda. So called round the Drubake or mother. So the 75,000 years some 딱 봤는데 매 삼나에 차고 유디 라와도 들어 남주 삼분나시도 되게 말와 그 거를 차대로 삼잖아 차유디 봐 따도래 센치디 매바다 하고라 따도 전에 디르셔 말에 이나 그게 깨지 셰단다 류기 쩌버 셰단다 니머시지 셰버지 텔 때는 소소르파 따셔거라 딱 봤으면 마도 유고는 매바서는 콘도다 차고 유다 강가 초도라 어디서 그러라 동반인의 공부에 남그 처음에 톱서 남바콘도 유래 차과 매버디 톱그래 달아야 고 다른 집 매버디 톱그래서 동반이 또 공부에 유대 미드초 디베 되다 라 니까레 메냐베 밤에 토바 바위에 토반 줄었어 어디 봐도 실람이야 좀 봐도
No.
어떠셔
So here again, we're going through these kinds of 25 different sort of particular qualities of, I believe it's the accumulation of merit. And so here in verse 287, beginning with the first line, it says, through faith, you do not take rebirths that lack freedom. So here, faith in particular. So among the various sort of accumulations, faith in particular, the kind of faith in virtue and non-virtue, as in doing the 10 non-virtues, you have faith, you have confidence that that will bring bad results. And by doing the 10 virtues, you have a kind of faith that that will bring good results. That sort of faith leads you to be born in a state that has freedom, right? Because by acting according to the ethical conduct, or really virtue and non-virtue, you will attain the kind of state that has freedom. And then it says in the next line, and this is the fifth of these 25 special qualities, through ethical conduct, you have fortunate rebirths. So by acting ethically, you obtain a good rebirth as a human or a god. That's the basis for attaining such a rebirth. And then in the next two lines, it describes the sixth of these 25 qualities, where it says, through developing your understanding of emptiness, you attain non-attachment to all things. So here, the meditation on emptiness is something that really causes all of the sort of adverse factors to qualities to lessen, right? So, and it causes us to gain a kind of conscientiousness and awareness of what we are doing. And so one way it is in which we use this understanding of emptiness is like when we hold someone, say, to be our enemy, it seems like really right there we could point to, oh, that is my enemy. There's like someone that is solid, that is autonomous, that exists by their own power. But when you are able to recognize how it is that are actually enemy is something that is just a projection of your mind. It's something that is an elaboration, or your mind's projecting onto that particular object. And when we can see that they're actually empty of existing in the way that they appear to us, we can't point to anything within that basis of designation that is our enemy, but rather because of various situations and causes and conditions coming together, I am projecting, oh, that is my enemy. And so too, when it comes to something pleasant, when we see external forms or have thoughts in our mind that we see as being particularly pleasant, by contemplating that they don't actually exist in the way that they appear, either meditating on their unpleasantness or really getting at their emptiness, that these are just projections of mind. They don't exist in the way that they appear. This is then, as it says, you attain non-attachment to all things by having that recognition of emptiness. Your sort of reactions, the kind of clinging to various objects as it appears, we will reduce that by when we recognize that this is something that is merely designated by mind as a projection of mind. We reduce that kind of attachment, and by reducing our attachment, our clinging to things, we likewise reduce that kind of anger. It is as much as we cling to something as an object of our attachment, so strong will be our hatred or anger when something threatens that. So by contemplating emptiness and reducing our attachment, we also reduce things like anger that come from that.
뭐야, 잠깐만 냈어. 잠깐만.
Yomebe.
다 요메 벤네 세대로와.
Lare.
요메 벤네 텐덴 토우세. 가르치고래서는 최년발라 속바체. 근데 유주 요로와. 지 마인바디 인도 인바 마인바도 qab에 줘라 유주체서라. 네 요메 벤네 잠바단 담바 토베세. 잠바 장보 체제 코세. qab에 다 텐데 체쇼 마라. 토바네 이 슝바 토보 이 슝보 미베 장보 담바라시 그 카두 사브스라나 되나. 따다마도 지금 유주도 시험 고고단 매지. 그래. 다 개발들 가르쳐 보더서나 신발이 제별로 또 톱스. 다 때려와 쳐라서 버튼더니 아니 쳐리야 신발이 제별 터바체 삼바체 삼을다네 로드던 데에 싫어 처음부터 그래 제라. 신발이 제별 로드 톱스. 근데도 다더니 그구바데 다 당가되면 되어서시. 꾸디 제별 전도 안 돼서 그 가르치고래서는 담배 최 마을이야 꾸티 집에서 최 마을이야 구십시바 되게 아니 최지도 또 받았다마 그 돈이를 준 거라 최라 돈이 그거요 근데 최 마을에 돈이를 붙여 그게 최동을 붙여요나 뒤셰바데 판도 셰요 거라 그 생견다 최를 뒤동스 매나는 그 셰나 남매당 그러마도 donda shimbuke tsigmaro oche suwe tambe cho na chimawala kurti chibese 저는 똑바다 dembadas 다 chubatel kadosina 추송 시럽체도 줄세더라 데가서도 퇴배 추 숭외에서 퇴배체내로 기대게 랑돌라서 버테도 야부 숭배 시럽체도 줄어 아니 랑돌진에 상마신게 시럽체도 줄래서 근데 대체를 가르쳐 주지마 최년바다 침바다서 최년바다 침바다 집에 매버 셔바에 최년바다 싫어 네 산제 남다 드바니 드바니도 토바 줄스 곱주바더라 비카서도 최년바다 최게 침바다 셔베세세 소소 최년 현달바 최셰바라 소바 셔베세 비큐라 소바 경기 tiba members ba shade ya tende yora khashe kaptira sambanenga to ma shebe chida ra she tene piju chigora chole samna chigora chole samna chi bana sokheba da chigmu kheba da to nenga de labgyo mara pugulia nenga de lamna ngada chikba chagre tene digmare samje inde mi mambo sigre labdu san kangalawe yo marda kangalabna 소소다 찍바차라네 결혼 얘기했어. 하여튼 됐으니까 야래. 제 배제 나오는 단대보다 제리대 영 말봐. 랍사데 가제시나 삼절람게 로서데 여마도 그게다 제리대 영 말봐. 다 소다다 내가 제리대네 내가 도 감나마도 컨디션은 소소 통매가 사트데 삼게 지라. 다 철텐데 뉴뉴이지라. 이나 또 연구하라. 아니 가서다 가만나. this one 최년마다 최게 심바 집에서 비치라 소바 경계 집바 매버 제바에 산제 남단 로바니 토버 유로서 어디는 따버를 최년에다 산제다 자주선바다 최송게도 졸이야 냠도는 로니페 고급토에 기라요래서 거라 토버 유시 셴얀 되베도 뉴도 토버 유로 어때 마인 버스스인데 저도 토베래 뇨라요래서 아니 그래 마샤베네 돈도테서 얘도에 어디 갈수록이나 도요라 마샤베네 돈도테서 도요리아 스타 착바면에 소소톤다 도요치 도마소 삼상 같은데 스타테 연구마로 마샤베니 최기 돈도테서 제지야 근데 대절라 세나메베기라 세나메베 로지 펠사 세나메나 로지 펠사 세나메베 로지 페와세 와샹을 침바타와를 소바트데 세나시다 마세나 샹을 고고 로바로 쳔게체네 고 소소레 미 kala yudu tsu roba chenge yungu wara tende se ta kyawa chima chimbe trebu longje pewa da yoyong kara mo te se yo sena mebe longje pele se kyawa chima chimba tanga chimba tanga tende se ne namshi na ne chi chimba pewa sa ki kansa kebar chen la soba tende tomne tarwa da tabje kimba tobe kyule dugre so oma chokba na yungu yoba o tende se chaje ane sena mebe longje pewa da se chushi pa ne ane ka se ngaje mebe zor gyus te ngaje chenpo ma chene zor gyugara ngaje chenpo je nga chenpo chego sana mesu shira tsiro chigma rwa danda tse ko ya chi indo na chig sam na do ko pa ko shep che shana ne ko su ti ke chigma rwa shira zor de gyurge cha sha sare cha yara susu ngaje ma je tangbo ngone chebe ina ngaje mebe zor gyurse me cha sha sa zor gyure ngaje mebe kunji kuwe zor gyurse Chunga badala karimata se chula sube sungtobo se chula sube sungtobo de kasira se na tongbani je chula sube se ta tongbani la soba tende komne ra te lo le abo chi chawa ye shawa ina michebe sungtobo se ani shenda ne chu kanga michebe sung se chi lo le simsa de changma jin thum ge sungtobo ge se
Oh, yeah.
o diba do chi se na
Yeah, diga.
biso
Disa.
oh yeah.
So then picking up in the first line of 288, and this is the seventh of these 25, where it says, by not being deceptive, you become mindful. So by being sort of straightforward with people, by not pretending that something isn't is or something that is isn't, by not being deceptive in any way, particularly with respect to the Dharma, you will have mindfulness and have this kind of upright sort of character. And then by through reflection, you attain intelligence. So through pursuing hearing and also reflecting and thinking, you will attain intelligence. And then through reverence, you will realize the meaning of the Dharma. So by having reverence and respect for the holy Dharma, as well as those who teach it, that is how you will gain realizations of the Dharma. If we don't have respect for something, if we don't actually hold it in high esteem, then we are much less likely to really pursue it earnestly. So here, we're likely to ignore things that we don't respect. So having that kind of respect both for the Dharma and the one who teaches it leads us to gain realizations. And then in the last line of 288, it reads, through preserving the Dharma, you will become wise. So by preserving that which we have heard, by holding on to it and protecting it, preserving it, we will then become one who is wise. And that is the 10th of these 25. And then the 11th comes in all of verse 289. It says, through eliminating obscurations in listening to and imparting the Dharma, you will quickly gain, gain the companionship of Buddhas and quickly fulfill your desires. So here, when it comes to listening and explaining the Dharma, one should eliminate any sort of obscurations to that, right? There are sometimes, particularly for those talking about those who are doing the explanation, more so in worldly matters, where they might not want to explain everything to their students, thinking like, well, if I teach them everything, then they're going to surpass me. They're going to be better than me. What will I have that's sort of the thing that I get to impart then? So how will I be superior to them if I really impart to them all of my knowledge? So maybe that is less common in the Dharma, but it is certainly something that should be eliminated. This sense of like, oh, well, how will I be the superior one if I teach everything to others? So then as well. Again, we will gain the companionship of Buddhas and quickly fulfill your desires as well by acting in that way of eliminating obscurations with respect to our listening to and giving others the Dharma. And then in the first line of 290, which is the 12th of these qualities, it then says, through non-attachment, you accomplish your aims. So by not having attachment, particularly to like objects of the senses, you are able to accomplish your Dharma aims. And then the 13th quality, which then comes in the second line of 290, it says, through lack of greed, your possessions increase. So by getting rid of our kind of covetousness or greediness, that is how we increase our possessions, right? Wealth comes through giving, and as it says as well in the entry to the middle way, where Chandrakirti describes the way that we need possessions and wealth, and the way that we gain that is through the practice of generosity. So by being generous in a way where we're not stingy, we're not greedy, wanting to hold on to our own possessions, that actually increases the kinds of things that we enjoy. And then the 14th here is in the last line, and it says, the third line, through lack of arrogance, you will become prominent. So in particular, not seeking out to sort of be special or recognized, getting rid of that kind of arrogance or pride, that's actually how someone does attain prominence, attain a good status. And then in the last line, this is the 15th quality, it says, then through fortitude for the Dharma, like having forbearance or patience with respect to the Dharma. So this is particularly the kind of patience with respect to realizing emptiness. You attain the dharani of not forgetting. So this ability to retain everything that one has heard in terms of the Dharma.
Oh yeah, that's you do what it is. Oh, then Nimbunganam Chimbata Sudo. Nimbunganam Chimbata. Nicare Zilla Magic Chibasa. Shinan Jibak Kangi Shibush get to the Magic Bashibatan. When I'm Muki of the joy at Chick of the Chick to the Mitang never Jibushambu in a mound of the Kabachi Robocha to the Sora. Magic by Shibasa. Jikba Yunga concert, Majikba, Shimba Yeshe. And it goes a tunam kunji, Mitsushi, Tobuchi, Chodujur. Tidava? Oh, did it. Take our cigarettes, and Nimbunga said, the Nimbunga to deal with the Tangajoda, Shemardas, Mala Sabatazuda. And the Kalsidosina, Puramda, Shemarda, Transita, Timarda, Lanzala Soba, Nimbunganam, Shimbaye. And Tala Soba, Jibe, Kelmala Soba, Mijiba Shibe, Tal Jiba, you get Tari Langa, Don Kuma Chapa, Jiba, you get to the Robachella Soba, Tresura. Jiba Kemachepa, Robachepa, Keroche, Susan Rosetta, Robache, Kelmase. So Cheba, and Tunam Kunji Mitsushi, Toboche Chodo, Tezukanga, Tunam Gene, Mitsushi. Top Chamber Jurek, Chop to Jurwaki, Tindek Jula do good Esigora. That was Tama to the Kanga teacher and Namsan, the top of the Esigomara. The Tobe Jula do good Esigora. Tobe Jula do good, that in my image you saw quite in the Yongra or Jesigora. Then shooting by the Karisitosana, Kuju Kusumba de Rida, so Shede Mame Chamata, Mumba, Tado, Chamata, and then Marme, Dumarichim by High mini top of yourself. Oh, yeah. Shedding that the data to Sajakusu to the Yeshe to Sura. Marme Chamata, Marme, Urgan now said, Luxury of today. Remember that to Tremitas. Remember Nagun to Zula Tremisha. Chitanko Tremit and Doana to the Yungdo. You make one of Tanka when you must save a Shidayane. Tremike Pakumare, Coach Sabu Yura. Now, once I tell you how to Trimit Bakuara, Trimit Bakuara. Remember that to Trimitas. Marme Dumarchibaye or Marmit, Tangamelosora, Shemipaya to the Mardanum that in the Tavra, that is other log shoot within the Pandura, or Dumarchimbaye, high many tobarjus. High making wish a tobarju, two cigarettes, making wishing when a tobalata, Shineda Ladon to the Kongora. High making wishes and then you come to Su Tarakanga, Tongate and the Dubiore. Oh, this you are. Tobarjus. Yeah, this is Lapshana.
So then the 16th quality then comes in verse 291, where it reads, through giving the 5 essences and fearlessness to those in fear, you will become impervious to all demons and the best of powerful beings. So here, by giving the 5 essences, and this is listed in the commentary as including like molasses, melted butter, honey, sesame seeds, and like salt, these various making those kinds of gifts, being generous with those substances, as well as by providing fearlessness to those in fear. So whether it is beings who are in fear because of, say, they are in a famine, or they are in danger of being carried away in a flood, or they are experiencing the ravages of war, by providing protection to those. Like, say, for example, someone has to travel through an area where there are lots of bandits and robbers and various enemies, to escort them through that kind of passage for their safety. This then leads to, again, being impervious to all demons and the best of powerful beings. Now here, all of these are describing how certain activities go toward the cause of attaining a particular quality. But we shouldn't think this is, like, again, an instant thing, that by just doing this, you will immediately obtain that particular quality. But rather, it is something where it is going toward the cause of developing that particular quality. And then in the next verse, and this is the 17th of these qualities, particularly referring to developing the divine ear, the divine eye. And so here again, we can see that to develop the divine eye, we need to have a combination, a union of calm abiding and special insight. Now, these other sorts of activities go toward the cause of developing that, but they aren't their actual, like, substantial cause. So through giving garlands of lamps to reliquaries, lights for those hindered by the dark, and oil for all those lamps, you will attain the divine eye. So here, giving light, and particularly this is referring to the older kind of styles where it would have been some sort of melted butter or oil. And this is something where there wasn't the tradition of giving lamps, offering those during the daylight hours. If the sun is out and it, you can see clearly, you don't need to offer such a lamp. But offering those lamps, lights, to those hindered by the dark. And in the past, it might have been oil lamps or butter lamps. Now we can maybe be offering electric kinds of things. This goes toward the cause of attaining the divine eye. And again, one should recognize that the real substantial cause of that is a union of calm abiding and special insight, but these help in that.
Oh, yeah. The Kushi de Basolka. Oh, Chuden Cheba, Ramadan, Chuden Dinderia, Chebada, Ramadan, Chikra, Tributane. Kibuti de Hakwa Jamna thing say the young good in the appreciate Sura. Kibuta and Pure town and it Tunda Nani Pure Natung so what it is. High now at over use. High Nayangu, she said, Jidanji come to Tatara Kanga, Musum to Tongatura, Nayangu, Tatara Sama, Hakongich. Tell her she need a lot of Madoto, the Tobe Chula do this and go. Oh, Nika, Chuden. Sembarti charging the Ramuda, Chudelia, Chibapu charging Chido, Ramuda, Tributa, and Puada, Donda, Nani, Pure Lion, Navin, which is to be Junior with the Ese. And then, what they were modeling of the Russian Chukubadira, the kuchu konga dira shuluka. Shenji chuba melingshin, yala nyamba na mechu, simne jesu sunwe na, shenji simne sheba top ode, disido. Karsungudo sune shenji chuba, nyeba cheba melingshin, shendage, kuen nundu cheba tanga, kuen tuzu lingyo amare shara, melingshin se. Shara soko, shara re shara, ngazu lab shara. Kambore sere kapare sere tede telo sere tezu labju mengune sene. Oh, ni kaze. Luli kyan tabiyo na til labju amare sere. Ni chebaye meling shen se. Sharo dan sheso yala nyamba nam mecho shen se. Kyunji chande chugyo marta. Shenji semne cheso sunwe na. Shenji semle pogre sam chidane oh shenda ti chene kolti samgire. Digmare something to some tanguara. Kokare some the song I keep a mess at this sometimes matter. Oh, this song I shangy simly shiver. Shansim shiver, when she said, this water. Till I am she never come out on come any shanda come yora. Shansim shiver, when she shangy sim the car some this was a hako to water. Shansim shiver, when she or the shine ladon to quarter, but the test some jetobe kitchimara. There's a tobe jewel and do good is at that. Yeah.
So, here, the divine eye, again, is a kind of clairvoyance that allows one to see all kinds of coarse and subtle forms. And so, too, then the divine ear, which comes in this next verse, is the ability to hear very subtle sounds. And again, like those that came above, these are describing activities that go toward the cause of that, but to attain the actual clairvoyance of the divine ear or the divine eye or any of these clairvoyances, one needs to have a union of calm abiding and special insight. And so it reads then in verse 293, by offering symbols and bells, so like symbols we play together with the hands, bells that you ring and so forth, for the worship of reliquaries, for the worship of stupas or other representations of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and also giving conch horns and drums, you will attain the divine ear. So through those kinds of like offering music to various holy reliquaries and so forth, as well as giving conches and drums, this goes toward the cause of the divine ear, although that clairvoyance, of course, has developed through the union of calm abiding and special insight. And then in 294, which is the 19th of these 25, it says, do not speak of others' errors, nor mention their physical handicaps. By carefully protecting their minds, you will attain the knowledge of others' minds. So here, by not calling out the faults of others, like the faults that they have done in terms of actions, or referring to their physical defects. We have a tendency to like look at someone and say, oh, they're crippled, or oh, they're fat, they're skinny, whatever it might be, but not doing that, not just saying whatever we think, but rather thinking about how that will impact the other person, and thinking about protecting the minds of others. This then goes toward the cause of being able to know the minds of others.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Tanda Dekadu, George Panda Adishat, something this over. Shanjun Messams, Ranjun Samler, Ranjun Tangish. Shanjun Cardo, Taranajun, Corishu, the Coristian Tatera, Himata Sora, so we can this sometimes a tipa, Tang Ebanashi, so when I talk to Janasipa, you will which is it. This was a pendo Shayangora. Oh, the Shan joined the something and the Shanlamaku, but there is sometimes Chadura. And then she's Rangi Mesa, so Yabucha, but the Shachi sometime and I get in Gora. Rangi Mesa, Shangi Yabucha to sometimes. Tin Shanlaku of the one, the guys I could take Yabuchi or something to do some Cobra. This dinner is so good at Amati. Yeah, teacher, that the Omadi did it. Hamdan, the Shologa. Kuchukutu dira, Yandang and then Yeshuba did it. Lambda Shamba Chimba dance. 냠쇼 꾸루아 제바다 네 셴베 라마 그러다 셴베 라마 꾸루아에 케베 주드 토바르겨스 갈세도세 셴달라 라마 한국 슈슈시에도 쇼라 네 셴바 파소 타르부드 따다 직지 다대상이네 모다다 세겔다 텐데 셴바이샤라 아니 도미니베 냠쇼도 탁발을 해야 되다 모다다 텐데 날 깨로셔야 되라 니마네 탁발 깨신마도 시다 따거리라 얘는마도 요마라 대상 셴다르 요마 소바 꾸루아셰베 셴바 라마 꾸루아 예세라 네 근데 셴달레 로바셰바에 케베 찍도 유르시네 네 마음으로 유르알라 소바 주주진 것이 아데 주주진 것이 더베 저러셔 뭐시체 뭐시고네 주주를 나서셔 주주 나서 대통령 것이 된데 와라 데데데 근데 더베 줄로 그래서 야 대실로나
So here, this verse is similar to as Joel Atisha has said, that we shouldn't think of the faults of others. Like really, we should focus on looking at our own faults, not trying to find the faults of others. We're doing that in the sense of like, if we have poisoned blood, right, we want to do like bloodletting. We want to get rid of the things that are faulty, that are harming us, but it doesn't do us any good to be just pointing out the faults of others. Although, of course, we are very good at this. And so too, we shouldn't sort of stick on our own good qualities. There's the danger of giving rise to pride, but really to look for the good qualities in others and rejoice in them. So we shouldn't get so focused on finding fault with other people, but rather turn inward and look at our own faults. That's what we need to deal with. So here then, continuing in the text, we move to verse 295, and it says, by providing shoes and conveyances, attending to those who are weak, and assisting your gurus with transportation, the wise person attains supernormal powers. So here, this is the kind of sometimes translated as like clairvoyance of magical emanations, the ability to show various magical emanations comes in part from, say, giving shoes, foot covering to others, as well as various conveyances. Back in the day, if one needed to go for a long distance, probably you would give them something like a horse to be able to help with that. Although in modern times, we could think about cars or planes or any of those other types of transportation to be able to aid in getting places, and to be able to attend to those who are weak and to assist particularly your gurus with transportation. Again, the wise person attains supernormal powers, or sort of powers of magical emanation, to be able to emanate out various forms and so forth.
뭐야 다 쇼로가 굵직굵직들아 최기 최다 대신도 최숑 된다 잠바다 최기 심바 팀메베 스럽 잠바 토바 쇼서 다들 가르치고라서나 최기 최도 가와 최기서 갈래겨든데 소지 죽라 가체바다 최기 근데 쇼사게 근데 죽라 가든데 생바다서 최기 최다 대신도 아니 줄라가셔봐라. 대신도 최기숑 당하서 전 매체바를 제시해서 최기숑 빼자된데다 근데 된다데 매체바시 수수 심을 샤야다 잠바다 아니 잠바다 렘바소이라 아마 잠바다 렌소라 대체는 갈때 연구를 삼체 벤조도 지때 된다 삼르탄에 진짜 마치 삼르탄 유매레스 샹라 펜싱 비토네 세우레 셈라 템바다 렌소라 로메베 최지 심바 팀마메베 란다 셴기응어지 시럽 템베 응원바셰바 토반조로서 어디에다 문에 제된 영어시 토반조레 수수처 가마 치료 가마 간데레 셴기 교 가마 가바가바 교란도 진데 문에 제된 영어시서 저절로 신내다 하던 톱대 좀 많이 배 검증을 대수 검는 토고라 다 대수 토베 줄어도 그래서 거라 토바 줄어 되기도 저 네 기오마데 야 담보 대신도 하나
Oh. So then the 21st of these qualities comes in verse 296. Through making efforts for the sake of the Dharma, through keeping the Dharma treatises and their meanings in mind, and through giving the Dharma immaculately, you will come to remember your past lives. So here, by being able to bear with difficulties, endure difficulties for the sake of the Dharma, say in constructing temples or in preserving texts and so forth, as well as holding the meaning of those texts and not forgetting it in one's mind, then as well, by also giving the Dharma immaculately in such a way as you have no wish for some sort of return on that. You're not hoping for a reward or repayment, but rather only wishing to be of benefit. Immaculately offering the Dharma in that way goes toward the cause of one obtaining the clairvoyance of being able to remember one's own and others' past lives. And so again, as with these other types of clairvoyances, these activities go toward the cause of attaining that. But in order to really attain such a clairvoyance, one needs to have the union of calm abiding and special insight as a foundation.
뭐야 하고 죽고 제대로 제가서 뭐 너무 오니 매봐서 동반이 또였으라 뭐 남랑게 오니 매봐 랑게 오니 매봐 소소 거랑 뭐 주요 매봐 현달 때는 봤다 봐서라 되고라 뭐 너무 오니 매봐 양다 시신 용시배 다 동반이 뭐 남랑게 뭐 주매봐 랑게 다시 차셔 된들 봐때는 딱 봐. 잠을 샤고 받으세요. 다 동반이 있으려는. 너는 뭐니 매봐. 양다 지신 용시배서. 양다 봐 정말 지던 내 봐셔도 용시배 동반이 용시배. 뭐시 주고 사고고 세바 쳐내 터버려. 뭐시 주고 sakse mo shisigra sakwa ko nyamo sebe sebe da nyamo pangbe lamla so batezo musum do shebe mo shide de tomdo ure sigora mo bo nam tan da ba ngo nye meba ya da ba chi da wa shin do yang su shebe es bara nengwe she tuwa nyende sebe tawa nyende sebe tawa ngo ten de sigora te nam do lam tong ba ngo sum do to be shi la so ba o te zo ngo sum do shebe mo shi tomdo sakse mo shisigra sakse mo shi sakwa sebe mo shi 우정도 토바 요로세 어때질람나야.
So then the 22nd quality comes in this next verse, 297, where it says, through correctly and truly understanding that all things are essenceless. So here referring to emptiness, referring to the fact that phenomena do not exist by their own nature or essence, but rather are merely designated upon a collection of causes and conditions, or collection of parts that is the basis of designation, but they don't exist by their own essence. So through correctly and truly understanding that all things are essenceless, you will obtain the sixth super knowledge, the supreme cessation of all defilements. So here, this describes in the commentary that by attaining this kind of knowledge, or by understanding how it is that all things, inner and outer phenomena, are ultimately without any kind of essence. This then leads to the attainment of this sixth super knowledge, which could be referred to as the cessation of all defilements, as in it is that kind of, and here in the commentary it refers to it as that sort of separation that is the exhaustion of all afflictions and obscurations, which is really referring to true cessation, and that the sort of path of liberation that comes subsequent to that is then this supreme, one will obtain this supreme sort of exhaustion of all defilements, or cessation of all defilements, this sixth super knowledge.
남담바 인들이라 어야 더 심전 탐제 데르다 kupchup kurkutira 심전 탐제 저에 실세도 대신 Yeshe 남담바세 심전 탐제 저에 대신이 동반이라 서봐 시바단 담바세리라 근데 닝지 남바 공부해서 동반이 또 싫어지 닝지 첨부 신배권에 봐 닝지 첨부 신배권에 동반이 또야 돼 맞아 엄마 주버가 쓰는 봐 드라이어에 추에 나게 나와더라 드라이어에 추에 나와더라 그 장신기 동바통 와서라 소소그 동반이 또서나 내 현다 동반이 마도게 되줄이야 사과도 닝지 끼고 있어라 대통령 닝지 닝부chen 쓰고도 동령 닝지 닝부chen 동반이 또 싫어도 닝지 신부 신바 생기 랑그 또야 되는데 현다가 또요 말와 tenderle ni chi chen nyam do song do dong ni ni chi ni bu chen shi do ho de ge chen shi ra sim chen tam je zhe le shi ti xin ni shi nyam den ba shi ni ning ji len ba gong ba ye ni ji da le do nyam ba gong ba ye shi nam be chong de jia wa ri yo nam ba gong ji chong de de shi dong ni ni ji ni bu chen shi do 남군 총대에 쓰기도하더라. 남군 총대 동반이 때 탑다 잠바다 니지 자주 sembr서 같은데 심배권에 남군 총대 겨와토베 끌린죠 그래서 심지어 탐제 저에서도 대신이 시베 시럽 냠되는 이시 저기 인지 렘바데 동반이 또베 시럽이 닝지 전부 닝보시한 공부에 다 동리도베 시럽데 닝지 전부 신배관에 공부해서라 아니 진소 연대 탐제 마상한 매버 남배서데 동반이 도베 시럽데 잠바다 닝지다 신바 주름 서발서 연대 탐제 탑기차다 냠도 신배관에서 남군 총대에 동리도베 시럽시기도 어딜서 남바 거시를 마상한 매버 남배서 그런 담배 자와를 주로세 지칠랍샤냐
So then the 23rd of these qualities then comes in verse 298. So it says, by meditating so as to liberate all beings upon the uniform awareness of suchness that has been moistened by compassion, you will become a victor with supreme qualities. So here I'm really getting at the importance of having this realization of emptiness be held with compassion, or really those be sort of intertwined together. As Chandrakirti has stated in the entrance to the middle way, describing beings are like reflections of the moon in rippling water. Seeing them as fleeting and as devoid of intrinsic nature, the bodhisattva's mind falls under compassion's sway, yearning to set free every transmigrating being. So here, this kind of realization of emptiness informs the nature of one's compassion, and so too, that compassion moistens that realization of emptiness. And so here, in order to be able to free all sentient beings, those who are sort of intelligent or who are endowed with wisdom, then pursue this kind of again, collection of wisdom that is moistened by compassion. So they're meditating on this essential mind, realizing emptiness that is held with compassion, and by so doing, they are able to accomplish all qualities without exception, including becoming a victor with supreme qualities. So here, this is really getting at the fact that all of the aspects of the method side of love and compassion and so forth are intertwined or are united with the realization of emptiness, or held or holding that. And so here, this is really getting at that wisdom and method need to be sort of combined, where the side of method is informed by the side of wisdom, the side of wisdom informed by the side of method.
yeah. 다 연된 예시바도 시기도 솔로가도 가래 잡아도 잡아도 다들 가셔도스나 뭐람 나서 다바예시라 산제 신네 다바를 요르세 Molam bumda trameba chula soba molam naso dabaye rang kangdu sang jabe sangye yishini number dawa tobar yursa. Oda chanju samba molam kata mambu chayara marazo tender yisara molam rechi kari samna tender sam tender yonga shosa molam kyabgu yisara membe yeko pasara shaje ti kyawalab chimbusa yora Matu mena samsa chi tuksha akati machuna sa chi yakuchuna samsa molam gebshana shodle shal kawalab chimbusa yora ota desi sara kalse desna molam bumda tame ba chula soba molam nazo daba ye rang kangla sangye ye shingni nabar ta wata wanjus o santi molam kabana shi sama tube tuba che tungege yenden tarshi batamge sangye ko wata be chule do desa oh yeah kene this order tit lokure homade oh tai yenden 가서 이시 쟁가 받으려도 개발적인 데 이시 쟁가 받으셔도 니 타마 시간이 부탁시와다 통화를 전표와요 투병원 벌어서 봤는데 구순 투대다 텐데야 뭐네 rembochela so batende ya piwa tende soda shukti ta tende 타케야 ta tende 와라 ane 타에 그네 넘버 트로스 아니 라데 remboche 왜 좋아라 소 tende piwa tende ane 마오바나 야 라라 왜 좋아라 소바 투베원 볼라 remboche piwa 타에베 저 타에베 왜네 넘버 2 토반 주로사 디실람이야
So then in our verse 299, in the first half comes the 24th of, again, these 25 special qualities. And it says, due to your unshakable resolve, your Buddha land will be pure. So here, a bodhisattva makes countless hundreds of thousands of prayers. And those prayers then lead to the various, those kinds of pure prayers lead to having a pure Buddha realm. And so here, our prayers as well, we sort of make them along the way, right? We are making wishes and hopes for the future, and that adds to our merit. This is the way in which we are eventually able to attain all of the kinds of qualities of Buddhahood, including having a pure realm and so forth. And so that is the 24th of these 25, and then the 25th of these qualities comes in the second half of verse 299, where it reads, by having offered precious gems to the king of sages, you will shine with infinite light. So by making offerings of, say, various jewels like a throne or various kinds of resplendent offerings to the king of sages, things like precious gems and so forth, then one will obtain this kind of radiance of light, this shining with infinite light.
왜 단딜 옵션 솔로가 잡아들어 어딜 옵션 다 디가스로 때 도와들어 다 돈다 수트샤는 데레스 담말이야 손남대시 초셔야 돼 그러니까 그러세 대외 대다라 렌제 다스로 다 레든데 손남대시 초이 레든데 사는 데부든데 연구래서 디나셔와 어디서 대외 대다 렌제 다 팀버 켄제에서 대시바나시 팀버 개부케랑게 켐버 저스고라 켄제 된다 가르스나 돌라 펜바 따도 된다 어떤데 거네 돌이야 니 펜토버트 따도 저세 디케랑리야 펜버레세 샹라 펜버세버트 랑라 펜버레세라 랑게 마음바다 체데디 이걸이야 펜기거든 마음바야 데부디 랑라 맹기거라 첸델레 랑 셴벨 좀베네 타와용거라 저니 이tinyi chola pemba laase tonda tishana terese dola pemba na soje te kerang tonda ya sosole pengiware mele pengiware se so tishana tere tewe na tada lende ngar shebatara so di chebese chunamda shige so di chebese gora debu di juwe Junde timber kimber dinner shebana shikanga, Jutilian debu de yungres and kimber zane, Rangla pembe, Quebetan dos, Maumban social pay, Cendela pay, Simjan Shala pay to the dollar pemba thought, dollar pemba 2,000 Jersey. This social pengy or rested, or dollar pemba, 1,000 Jersey is a Tini Kebuchula pemba, Lasso, Shembe, Kaza Chevaneti. Tanda shenli pengore, tanda social pende yora. Oh, indi sende ne tanda sobse. Sengi tende karasin de liude. Oh, aniga Rinpoche chungwa shi chawa, chanchu ki tso tiba shi chawa de liu sumba. Di chanchu ki tso suri keba tangme sundu sunam da ishi ki tso sa kore se tso chi yora. Di she de yora chanchu chodo sem kene. Sunam ki tso sa kore, ishi ki tso keba tangme sundu sa ya she dira. Chidang ko sunam da ishi shaniya ko ngarazu chanchu semaji ne she yora. Ya dinde sunam dangam ki tayi shi, o tiba da shi shi ya. In liu de tso sa. Kebula
So,
tam buchi ro shi chawa. Ane tso tiba shi chawa ti. Liu sumba, ya o dis. Tochi.
So here, just to get then the final verse of this chapter, verse 300 says, thus, this is kind of a summary of what has come above. Thus, realize that a karmic effect corresponds to its karmic cause. Therefore, you should always benefit beings. This will likewise benefit you. So here, having reflected upon the relationship between cause and effect, here he encourages the king, saying that thinking about this kind of description of the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom, one should know, you should know that causes lead to corresponding results, and thereby when one acts in ways that benefit others, that is going to in turn benefit you, right? It's not this kind of action that one does in the service of other sentient beings is something that will eventually come back and help you as well. So however much you benefit others, it will be of benefit to you in the short term as well as in the long term, the kind of good results that will come from that. And so here, what has been discussed is bodhisattvas, having generated this attitude of bodhicitta, need to accumulate merit for 3 countless eons, right? They need to accumulate the collection of wisdom and the collection of merit. I mean, those are categories that apply even before we have, those are things that we can train in even before we have generated this attitude of bodhicitta. But here, this chapter, this 3rd chapter, is then a kind of summary of the accumulation, the collections of enlightenment. And this is the 3rd chapter from this text of a precious Garland, which is advice to a king. So with that, we finish the 3rd chapter.
Oh, yeah, I'll look to the source. Tochi.
So our time is up for today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ginla. And
Oh, yeah.
we rejoice that you collected many of these 25 qualities by teaching us today. So thank you. And thank you, Katrina.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so.
As always, thank you, Katrina. We'll finish with some dedications.
Katrina created them by translating.
And Katrina created them by translating the teaching. All right, thanks.
May the spiritual teachers
yeah.
lead me on the sacred path, and the spiritual to visit have of life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of the Buddha's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Iram Guru Rana Mandala.
Oh, yeah.
And may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha. that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
뭐야, 그래서 도대체. 아야, 도대체.